The Hedgeless Horseman here. It's July the 15th, 2024. Well, it's technically the 16th already in Sweden. Anyway, first of all, thanks to the sponsors. Markets recently have been, well, I guess pretty good for the metals at least. I mean, gold, yeah, 24, 25. Silver above 30. Crypto's actually making a comeback again, so it's like as long as crypto is around these levels, I see it as open season for value investor. Basically, you kinda know that. I mean, there's not much sense in the markets yet. Anyway, yeah, I mean, silver's holding 30. Copper's had a kind of a beat down. Nickel is slightly under 17,000. Nickel really has seen very souring sentiment, I would say. Kind of crazy. I mean, people probably saw the news out of Australia, or yeah, there was an article on mining.com how BHP now, I think, shut down some nickel mines, or will shut down some nickel mines. So I mean, all of that is like talk about doomy news headlines. I mean, I think the title was something, you know, how Indonesia has killed, or the death of Australian nickel, yada yada yada. So it's like you hear that stuff, it's like, Jesus, that sounds negative. And of course, I mean, that's the impact it has. You hear, you know, well, nickel mines shutting down, who would want to own nickel, etc. And then you see the, you know, basically the consensus on Twitter and all of that is also that, you know, nickel is really not a place to be. Indonesia will flood the market for the next, you know, however long. Problem is, of course, they also have some kind of cost basis, and also that if this keeps going, let's say, or even, you know, falls lower, we've already seen a bunch of Western supply go down. So it's like Indonesia must still ramp up just to have, you know, supply meet demand. If we're taking a bunch of Western mines offline, I mean, that would make the price rise, if not for, you know, Indonesia plugging that gap, for example. And of course we know Rick Rule, he still believes that basically that Russia is dishoarding metals to pay for the war, which is getting, I guess, very costly. And we can see this, like palladium, it popped up about 1,000, now it's down $50 or whatever. It really looks like there's, I don't know, kind of rampant selling. Because the thing is also that, and I think palladium is in a deficit or something. So it's very weird what's going on. It's like face value, it's a deficit, but it's still, you know, getting its teeth kicked in. My point, I guess, is that everyone is very bearish nickel and PGMs. I'm bearish nickel and PGMs. How couldn't you be? Because the headlines and the sentiment and all that. But like always, this is probably, I mean, it's not like it can't go lower. For sure, you know, stuff can go lower. But it's like, you know, as a contrarian, that should mean alarm bells, basically. That, wow, this is the most hated sector. And as Rick Rule famously says, he loves hate in a cyclical sector, because, you know, you're much closer to a bottom than a top. And you make money when you're in somewhere around the bottom and sell around the top, obviously. So that's something to keep in mind. There's like, whatever, if one feels like I'm gonna dump all, you know, nickel and PGMs because the sentiment is so shitty, I wouldn't be surprised if we, let's say, come back a year or two from now, and one draws the conclusion, I should have been buying. I of course, as everyone else, nobody knows exactly what's gonna happen. But when you see mines shutting down, then you know it's really cutting into the flesh of the sector, like the gold bottom, the gold mining bottom in 2015. Companies almost went bankrupt and stuff. I mean, there was some extreme returns for the longs who actually dared to buy that bottom. Somewhat of a excuse me, somewhat. Oh, excuse me. I drink some water. Some of the problem, I guess, for me is that gold juniors are so cheap. I mean, they're so cheap, and you don't really have the problem of low metal prices because the gold price is not low, and silver is looking pretty okay. So that's the. I mean, that's a luxury problem in a sense. It's like if there weren't, if gold units weren't so cheap, if whatever silver units weren't as cheap, stuff like that. I mean, I would be even more into nickel and PGMs, I think, because this is basically what some form of bottom looks like. I mean, give or take, 10-20%. But just keep this in mind. It's like, remember how it feels right now, and it's like sometime in the future, sentiment and prices are going to be way better than they are now, and of course we can't invest backwards in time. But it's one thing to pay attention to. It's like when you're just bombarded by negativity, that's probably a good time to be buying some. The funny thing is, it's like, okay, this is the major miners. But like, I would say, again, sentiment is pretty shitty, especially for the juniors. I don't think the Canadian investor really is back in a big way. I think institutional money is more bullish than retail. And one kind of can see that. Or it's like, yeah, I can kind of get that, because institutional money, typically at least, excuse me, is smarter than retail. So at least in the institutional money can look at a mining company or a developer or whatever and see, okay, this is what you're worth on paper, or this is how the project looks. Oh, this is what you're selling for. That's that's cheap. Whereas most retail, since most of us are actually momentum traders, really, we have a very short time horizon. So, I mean, valuation is an afterthought. That's why, in my opinion, I do not understand how so many can say that this sector is so hard. Because, it's not that hard if you really actually stick to the basics of value investing, which very, very few ever do. So basically, it's not that the sector per se is extremely hard. It's what we do. That's the problem. I bet there's a lot of people that bought the highs and didn't buy the lows. And I see people on Twitter. It's like I look forward to the day that I'm breaking even on miners. Then I'm gonna sell out of this sector, which absolutely makes no sense. If you know a better sector that's cheaper right now, you should get out now. Even if you're down minus 50% or 80%, you should always stick to the best opportunity. Not just like, oh, I'm gonna get out when I'm back to even Steven. That alone says everything. It's like sorry guy if you're listening, but it's like no concept really of what opportunity is. Just waiting for when I break even. What if 5 other sectors, let's say, became just super absurdly cheap, even cheaper than the mining space? Why on earth would I wait to make back my money to break even in the mining space before shuffling into 5 other sectors where I think there's going to be even superior returns to? No, it makes no sense. It's just a goalpost that doesn't really make any sense. And with that attitude, it's like if you're that depressed, it kind of says it all. You don't think this is an opportunity. The only thing you see is pain. You have no idea why you should be buying in this sector. You don't even know what an opportunity is. Because if you know what an opportunity is, like when something is cheap, you would be saying, I love this sector because stuff has been cheap for 2 years. And even with gold going up to 2,425, stuff is still selling like gold is at 1,700 or 1,600 or something. I mean, you can't make a better environment for a value investor. So if you're just absurdly depressed and complaining about that, then you're obviously not going to make any money in any sector really, because you're a pure momentum trader. And sure, you might get some blow off tops in some sectors, but like you can kind of tell, if someone has no idea what they're doing and has basically given up. And it's not like I'm happy to see that. That's just a fact. I mean, you have to do a lot of work in order to make money. I mean, it should be that way. And I'm talking long term. Short term, anybody can lose money. You don't need to be a dipshit investor in the junior mining space to have lost money from. I mean, the junior miners have done even worse. So it's like, if you're down on most of your juniors and you started 2020, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. Same as you don't need to be a rocket scientist to make money in this move, or money in this move, or lose money in this move. It's like, that's not something to take personal. But as soon as you understand, okay, we're at a sentiment low, stuff is cheap. What always happens in a cyclical sector? Well, stuff goes from very cheap to very expensive, to very cheap to more expensive. And this is, of course, with dilution and a lot of shit decisions by majors up here. So this chart is worse than it should be, obviously. And not every is, Agnico Eagle, for example, has done well. But other than that, yes, most companies have sucked. But it's like, big retracement, big rally, big retracement, huge rally. Again, it's not rocket science. You just don't have to take everything so personally, because everybody's kind of guessing where the price is going to be tomorrow. It's like, if you care that much where the next 10% move in a stock is, I don't think you have a case at all. In the junior sector, totally intact stories can go down 50%, even 60%. And that's totally intact stories. The failed stories, they can go down 80%, 90%, 100%. So it's like, that's one thing I think people should really, really train themselves to do. If you notice on my Twitter account, for example, I typically don't share any one-day moves in any junior. Because the thing is, sometimes it's like, okay, something goes up on no news. How happy should you be about that? Yes, on paper you make money, but it might as well go down the next day. And if your case is that, well, I think if this works, I can get 300% over the next 2 years. Why would you care about 10% in a given day? Because you also know that it can go down 10%, but it's going to take 2 years for it to go up 300%. Then it's like, okay, let's say that happens. Wow, okay, this case actually played out. I'm going to cash out now with 300%. That's a big win. That's a good return. But it's like, if you get all excited about a 5-10% move, it's like, well, what are you after really? That's a daily move that can go in either direction. 10% is nothing. So what are you sharing? If you bought a stock and you actually have conviction, you thought about it, you bought a stock for $1 and you think, yep, I think this is worth $3. Like, could be worth $5, but I think it's worth $3. You buy it, it's up 10%. Should you really be cheering? Is the play over? Or are you going to take paper profits? Otherwise, they are just paper profits. So what's there to really cheer about? Because it can go down the same amount tomorrow. So why would you be cheering? Because if you cheer every daily move, you have to mourn every daily down move. Makes no sense. So if you notice, it's like, I don't particularly comment that much about volatility, especially on the upside. Because if there's no news out, then I know it's like, okay, this means I'm getting paid now, but less later. So who knows? Sooner or later, I might need to sell this. And if it's been a no-brainer, whatever, my life is easy when I own no-brainers. It gets hard when you are up, and I'm not talking 10% or 30%, much more than that in a case. And you actually have to think about, maybe the margin of safety is not that big. Maybe there's more in some other one. Because I wouldn't own a single case if I thought my upside case was 50% plus. Maybe some, actually. Maybe some. It's like, but those are very, very rare. Whatever the safest ones I could find. Anyway, that's just some musings at least. But it's like, in my opinion, you should train yourself to, like, if you have some of your stock holdings that are up a lot on a day, your portfolio is doing well, train yourself not to care. Make a nothing but burger out of it. Because that's, in my opinion, how you have to feel or behave to make it in this sector. If you take all the short-term volatility seriously, take it to the bank. If you're, again, if you're cheering like hell if something is up today and it goes down tomorrow, how are you going to feel then? That might make you want to sell, for example, when you maybe shouldn't, for example. So anyway, you can just try to limit the emotional response to anything, especially in a volatile sector. I think that's really, really good. So I'm making I'm keeping my eye on the price. I mean, there's some holdings that have done really well recently. But if there's still, I can be happy that I'm in the green at this point in time. But if the case was like literally, no, hey, my base case is that they should go up to 300% more. Then we might only be in the first inning. So how much is there to celebrate? Should I take a victory lap just because I'm in the green? That doesn't really make much sense. And it also keeps you focused on, again, the reward side of the high risk, high reward function, which is pretty much every junior in this sector. I have to get some of the high reward in order to pay for the high risk. But if I'm, jumping up and down, if I get a 10% return or whatever, it's like that's not high reward. That's not going to cut it. So that's meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, let's dig into some news. So First Nordic was halted at the market open. It's like everyone was waiting for news. Usually, it comes out and then it opens to trade. 15 minutes after the news is out, whatever. But they actually held it halted all day. Not 100% sure why. Maybe to prevent any leaks, for example, or they were, had to fix some stuff, whatever. Draft a news release, and again, okay, we don't want any leaks, let's say, so we'll halt it now that it's kind of finished, and then do the paperwork. So they released it shortly before the market close, but there was no trading today. First Nordic to complete the acquisition of its 100% owned greenstone belt in Finland and welcome Agnico Eagle as a shareholder. So this is the Finnish gold project, which they were acquiring from Agnico Eagle, but there was a cash payment left to do. And I actually don't remember exactly what the price tag was. But this, again, is I think Agnico kind of had, I think it's been dormant longer than Barsele. But it's around, if I remember correctly, 300,000 ounces of So 300,000 ounces of around 4.6 and 2.9 grams per ton. So let's say, average 4 grams per ton. That is not bad at all. And they've had, and that's only from a little less than 2,000 meters drilled. The project is wide open. Agnico drilled it a bit shy of 20,000 meters. And they've had hits like 22.6 grams per ton and 126 grams per ton silver over 11 meters as estimated true width at 102 meters depth. Okay, across the rest of the belt, 32,274 meters and 217 holes have been drilled. I'm not sure if is that included in the resource? I don't know, but it's a belt scale opportunity. We can actually look at it here. If it's even, yeah, okay, this is the resource. Here you see the resource. Here's a systematic drilling, indicator resource, infer. And again, I only think it goes down to some, what's the average? Maybe 300 meters or something. I think these are kind of hits as well. It doesn't appear that they've even, well, this they've drilled a bit more. These looks like hits, these looks like hits. But here's like, there's no more drilling really. And I think, I mean, they own a whole belt. So this is the Kulmekangas deposit here. This is a 5-kilometer scale bore. And, you know, listening to recent interviews, they think that this deposit might be just a part of maybe a 3 to 4 kilometer mineralized structure. So there's plenty of stuff to do. I mean, there's a reason why Agnico, you know, sat on it. And it's not because they closed it off with drilling. Kind of a similar setting as Barsele, actually. But that's actually, let's say, Agnico's shift of focus and their growth in size is basically the reason why this opportunity exists. Barsele and Oijärvi. So the deal is that they're giving Agnico almost 28 million shares. And I think that's, what's that worth? I think they have it a bit over $8 million. So I mean, that's a pretty, let's say, I mean, it kind of says at least what they think the minimum value could be for this early stage asset, let's say. But in my opinion, I think this is kind of a good intention deal, if that makes sense, because I think that I don't remember exactly how much left they were supposed to pay. Maybe this is exactly the correct whatever. It's like if First Nordic really wanted to, they have like, I think it's like $4 million or something. I think they could, you know, acquire the project in cash. That I think. Okay. Or let's say theoretically they could just, okay, we're not actually gonna acquire it. We're not gonna pay it up. So you get it back. That's also, I mean, that's the interesting part here. Where it's like, in a sense, if First Nordic really wanted the Oijärvi project, like whatever, kind of a flagship situation, they would come up with the money. And what was I saying? Yes, no. But if it's like, hey, you know, Barsele looks so good and our new land position that we don't really need a second project. We get the money, we know where to spend it in Sweden, because that's our flagship project. So we could drop it. It's like, okay, now Agnico Eagle has to do something else with the project, if you know what I mean. So I think this is a good faith transaction, actually. I think Agnico, you know, did kind of a friendly deal. It's like, hey, okay, take the project. We'll give it to you if you allow us to become the largest shareholder in First Nordic. Okay, what happens then? Well, then Agnico Eagle, the $51 billion company, is the largest shareholder and has exposure, not only additional exposure at the Barsele deposit, but also the Oijärvi deposit, of course. But I think more importantly, the 100% owned ground, the First Nordic 100% owned ground around, or should rather say, a long strike of the Barsele deposit. Where's the land map? Here. So this is the Barsele project. The strike to the north and the strike to the south is 100% owned by First Nordic. Now, Agnico gets exposure to this, obviously Finland, and even more exposure to the Barsele deposit. So again, that's kind of the only thing that makes really sense to me, because you can look at this presentation. First Nordic is mostly, I think, the Barsele deposit and the Gold Line Belt is hands down the flagship project. So theoretically, it's like, oh, we don't want to pay money for Ojärvi perhaps. It's a good project. I mean, most juniors would kill to have a project like that, an Agnico drilled resource, and you control a whole greenstone belt. Absolutely, sign me up. Probably a better gold project than 90% of gold juniors have. Maybe 95 even, actually. And it's in Finland and all that. So it's like, okay, but still not that we would want to maybe spend money over there. Okay, so again, then you could like, okay, maybe we drop it. But if they come to an agreement, because it's like, it's obvious, or First Nordic, they're obviously aware of what's happening here. They have a country team. I mean, they're drilling right now around Barsele. They're wildcatting. So obviously they are aware that there's been some fat anomalies delineated by First Nordic. Påbacken, Storstjärnhobben, Brokojan, Harpsund, Aida, which has a discovery hole. Yeah, so that's 4 targets. And of course, which is a fat anomaly, this is a 4 kilometer scale bar, Storjuktan. There obviously looks to be something going on here, right? Okay. So they see this, and it's like, yep, Barsele alone, and this is not even the full strike of Barsele. Agnico sees this. Barsele is kind of a known quantity, like someone pointed out in the forum. That's like Cope and made it clear to folks on some of Agnico's own employees were surprised that they're about to turn on the project. He's talking about the deal in 2021 with at least 5 million ounces almost guaranteed. I don't use that in my calculations, but it's like, yes, that's what we've been hearing a lot. It's like, at least 3 to 4 million ounces from Barsele only. Because this is not cut off in any direction, especially at depth. So I think Barsele is, on paper, it's a 2.4 million ounce deposit. I think it's gonna be at least 3, probably 4, maybe 5 million ounces plus. Problem today is that Agnico is a $51 billion company. $51 billion company. I think they're at kind of all-time highs. Yeah, all-time. Are they at all-time high? Yeah, I think they're at all-time highs. Look at this is when they did the deal, I think, with on Barsele, for example. Agnico Eagle is now the second largest gold miner in the entire world in terms of market cap. $500 million is 1% of their market cap. They wouldn't give 2 shits about a project worth 500 million. That's a huge winner for a junior. For Agnico, that's not worth the paperwork. I mean, of course, if you gave them 500 million, they're gonna take it, but you know what I mean. That doesn't move the needle for them. Plus, Agnico Eagle also has, the CEO has stated a bunch of times Where did I write that? Yeah. Listen to Agnico CEO's last survey. He constantly says, and go and listen to his interviews, like the one he did with Rick Rude, for example. We're not a global miner, but a regional miner. AKA, it's damn hard to get Agnico to care about projects outside their production hubs, outside of their currently operating regions. So what does that say about First Nordic's ground? Again, it's like not only from a market cap size is Agnico now the second hardest gold major to impress in terms of scale and potential. Only Newmont is larger. Further than that, or more than that, they constantly say they are a regional player. So their threshold, whereas another major might like, well, hey, we're a global miner. We have no problem going into a new jurisdiction where we don't have operating mines or something like that. Or mid-tier, whatever. Agnico has stated on multiple occasions that they are regionally focused. Their main focus is Canada. And they are 51 billion market cap company. Which begs the question then, what will they kind of have to see in terms of potential for Agnico to like, hey, we would like, we'll take care of Ojärvi for you. We'll give you Ojärvi, you get that, but then we get 13.3% of all of First Nordic. Including more exposure to the Barsele deposit, including the first ever real exposure to First Nordic's 100% owned ground. And just to go back to the 2021 LOI, when Barsele tried, and this is when Barsele Minerals only had the Barsele ground. They tried to buy out Agnico Eagle, and Agnico Eagle demanded payment in equity. Not only equity, also equity. Like they wanted upside. And I think Barsele at the time, Barsele Minerals, was trading maybe at 60 million or something. But still, it did not have the First Nordic assets. Back then, Barsele had this. Not this, not this, not Ojärvi, for example. But still, and Agnico was a much smaller company back then. Not much, but like I think they might have been, $25 billion or something. And that's why it's like already then Barsele might have, like, it's getting close. And they were even more maybe focused on Canada back then. So it's like, in my opinion, I don't think people fully appreciate the signal value of basically what looks like Agnico wanting, hey, we want exposure to what you guys have doing. We want to become the largest shareholders. And okay, we'll give you Ojärvi just as long as you give us exposure to the bigger pie. Because again, if Ojärvi was such a priority for First Nordic, we would have paid them off in cash and not taken the dilution. That's what I think. And if we really didn't like it, or we wanted to keep the cash, theoretically, we could have dropped it. Because we're not getting any value for Ojärvi anyway. Believe me, it's like we're not anywhere close, in my opinion, getting fair value for Barsele. So there's got to be, in my opinion, something there where it's like, okay, let's do it like this. We want exposure to you, what you got going on, because we realize that, hey, Barsele alone is not a tier 1 project. This is not the size. It's not the size for Agnico Eagle. We're a $51 billion company, and we stick to our regions. We unfortunately don't have an operating mine in the vicinity, so it's not like we can just add this on to anything. No, this would be a new entire region. Well, First Nordic, with its land position, has a region play. if you look at some Canadian greenstone belts, I mean, you have multiple mines and multiple companies sharing a strike length of like 100 kilometers. This is an absolutely enormous land position that First Nordic has. They have a regional land position. That is something that even Agnico, I think, appreciates, that, hey, if Barsele could get to, let's say, 4 or 5 million ounces, okay, still not big enough for Agnico, let's say, to, again, start up shop in a new region. But like Taj says, we're going to try to find this, Barsele number 2, Barsele number 3, and so forth, and so on. If we're talking, and that's what you can hear Tosh talk about, that we want to, it's like, and Adam as well, it's like we think we have the next, major gold camp in the world. It's like underexplored gold camp, the new gold camp. And we're talking maybe, they want to see 8 million ounces plus. And it's like Fäbodliden here, which is not in operation, that has, I think, 2 to 3 million ounces. They had problems getting that permitted, though. For what I can tell is because their transportation. They were going to ship it to the Svartliden plant, which is, what is that? I don't know, 30 kilometers or something. And it would pass through a bunch of villages. So it's like heavy-duty trucks through 6 villages, something. I think that's the main thing. It's like, nope, you can't do that. So you already have like 2-3 million ounces dormant here. Which, I mean, there's no guarantee that that's going to be unlocked. You have 2.4 right now, but probably 3 to 5 million ounces or more. And that's just at the Barsele. There might be, Risberget and the Norra VMS, and they're drilling like Bastuträsk and stuff now. So, okay. Barsele proper, 3 to 5 million ounces. 1 or more discoveries here, you already then we could be talking like a 8 million plus gold camp. And it's like, at face value, right now, there's 2.4 here and 2 to 3 million ounces here. Here, I mean. So it's like, there's already probably 6 million ounces plus in this area. And this is an underexplored belt. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not rocket science. To me, and I've shown this before, this is when I did my, crude estimations, like, okay, what could Barsele be worth? And my base case is 800 million CAD at $1,800 gold, higher operating cost than Ikkari. I don't know why we would have higher, but I used a bit of a higher. And 8% discount rate. At 5% discount rate, it's already at over $1 billion at $1,800 gold. This is the spot price. No, that was the spot price. At today's spot price, the CAD NPV is almost $2.1 billion. That's just based on what's already proven and what First Nordic has 45% of. So that's 941 million in NPV at spot gold price, according to this my crude attempt at evaluating the value. But let's stick to the base case. But let's do 5% because that's something that almost every other miner, especially if you're in Sweden, you wouldn't. I mean, I see companies in Africa do 5% discount rate. But in that case, that's over $1 billion. Right now, we're talking right now. That is still, again, not big enough for Agnico Eagle. That's 1/50th. $1 billion is nothing to a 51 million market cap company. That's less than 2% of their market cap. That's not even going to move the needle. Not $1 billion. Look at the acquisitions and whatever that Agnico's done. It's like, oh, we buy merger of equals with Kirkland. They got even bigger. It's like, they bought Detour. That they did some deal with, what was it? Pan American for, was it Yamana Gold? I think so. They are doing billion-dollar deals, and they've only grown in size since then. For something to move the needle at 5%, let's see. Yeah, I should say 5% of 51 billion is 2.55 billion. I think that 2 billion is probably today around the very much lower limit of what Agnico would even be interested in. So that is, in my opinion, what this move by First Nordic and Agnico is suggesting. That I think Agnico sees that with the additional land package, with these big soil anomalies, they can see that together with Barsele, yep, there is potential for this district, this region, First Nordic's land package, to host enough gold that even a strict regional player, or let's say a very picky player like Agnico, a company as big as Agnico, can even be interested. And of course, what it also opens up is that, let's say Agnico changes their minds or whatever happens. Let's say we go into the, I don't know, lower case scenarios, let's say. The worst case is that, we have 45% of a mine worth $1 billion at $1,800 gold price. Or worst case, theoretically, yes, there could be something happen, of course. Who knows, a comet could hit, war breaks out, you know what I mean. But at face value, our worst case is that we own something, 45% of something that's worth $1 billion. That would be material to a mid-tier, maybe even an emerging major. So I think we have kind of a tier 2 project, especially if you include the fact that it's very cheap to drill. You're probably going to get it to 4 million ounces, maybe more. Then we're talking, that's a legit tier 2 project. So that's our worst case, in my opinion. That is the whole reason, and I've said this, when I've done videos before. This is why I love the risk reward in First Nordic. Because the worst case is that we have a tier 2 deposit, kind of like what Taj says. There's a mine. There's a mine there already. That's not going away. That is not going away. But this opens up that, okay, if Agnico has exposure to the whole land package, because they are the biggest shareholder in First Nordic, and they are the operator at the Barsele project, what benefits First Nordic also benefits Agnico now, even with the 100% owned ground. And if that helps First Nordic perhaps to prove up that, hey, Agnico, there's a friggin' new gold camp here, they obviously would have a much cheaper deal than anyone else. So it's like Agnico is now obviously, I think this is signaling that they believe there's Agnico potential in the First Nordic land package. Because this happened pretty quickly after these soil anomalies at Påbacken and Storjuktan, for example, got published by First Nordic. All of a sudden, okay, Agnico, hey, we're back in business again. You take Ojärvi, we take 13.3% of First Nordic. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. Let's go. So this is a win-win. Even not only the signal value, or it's like, let alone the signal value. You have a bunch of people like, they've heard about First Nordic, because I almost went insane. I probably said this in videos recently. It's like, I have no friggin' idea why this is so cheap. It's the biggest no-brainer in the gold space that I think I'm currently aware of. I don't know. It's like, again, from the margin of safety perspective, an Agnico Eagle drilled resource in Sweden with extremely good infrastructure, a national interest designation on the project. Gold is at $2,400-$2,500. It's like, according to Tosh, who's a mine builder, it's like there's already a mine there. I do my spreadsheet, use Icaris cost estimates, and I come up with like, yeah, this is a freaking good deposit already, with no additional upside. It's already let's say a tier 2 mine. Where do you find this stuff with 100 kilometer strike of an entire belt? I don't know a single other junior. Yes, there's juniors in Canada, in remote locations, which have huge land packages, let's say. I mean, most of them probably don't have as big as this, perhaps, but it's like big ones. Infrastructure, super remote. No infrastructure. There's like 8 hydroelectric plants in the vicinity of Barsele. There's a road right next to the deposit and a railway that goes to the Boliden smelters to the east. There's 1 or 2 power lines that actually goes over the friggin' deposit. And there's a airport down here, and there's, bigger towns to the northwest or whatever. You cannot ask for better infrastructure. This is as extreme as it gets. There is a mine to the east here. That's Botnia Exploration. They're putting 30,000 ounces in production. The Svartliden plant, or Svartliden mine, mined 377,000. In many parts of Canada, you need like 2-3 million ounces, depending on the grade, of course. But there's multi-million ounce deposits in Canada that maybe never gets built. And it's not, from environmental whatever. It's because they are so remote. The infrastructure is so costly. I mean, I look at some underground deposits in Canada. They have like 4 grams per ton cutoff grade underground. Barsele has 1.5 to 1.8. And that was with very conservative cost estimates as well. Done at $1,300 gold. Operating costs much higher than the actual miners are operating at in the area. Like, for example, this is, I think this is Kankberg, Boliden's. Mineral resource include value from NSR value below 406, so around 4. I think that says something about 500 as well. Yeah, 4 or 500. That's $40 to $50 cutoff grades. $40 to $50. This is recovered gross dollar value per ton after recoveries at 2.7 grams per ton. 133 at 1650, 145. So that's like, well, using their cutoff grades, that's like, what, 67% margin? This is what I'm talking about. It's like everybody's sleeping on Sweden. That's obviously the main reason why it's such a opportunity. It's like, in my opinion, this should not exist. I don't know a single Canadian gold junior that has a legit, let's say, tier 2 deposit, extremely good infrastructure, 100 kilometer land package, a resource drilled by Agnico Eagle. And Agnico Eagle obviously has done a bunch of, like, I don't know, what do you call it, like water studies and whatever. It's like they've been at the project since 2015-16 and basically run the whole thing. So there's a lot of work that we don't even know about that they've done, preparing for, for this to become a mine, let's say. And then they outgrew it and stuff, but it's like, still, Agnico Eagle wrote the book on gold mining. They are the rock stars of the gold mining space. They've overtaken Barrick. Maybe they're gonna overtake Newmont, unless the copper makes a comeback, for example. You cannot ask for a better margin of safety. And you get the upside that, in my opinion, now Agnico is saying that, yes, we see substantial upside, that this whole package could be, interest to a $51 billion company that really doesn't like to go out on a limb. So it's like, yeah, I don't know what to say. It's like, to me, this is so obvious that, again, going back to it's not like you're gonna make money on every single no-brainer case, but it's like, I should say, it's like, I'm hugely biased. It's like, I own a shit ton of First Nordic. I love the story. And again, it's like, I'm hoping for this to one day become $1 billion company. I'm hoping that Agnico Eagle one day, in a few years, will buy us out at $1 billion, $2 billion or something. That's my, somewhere along the blue sky case. Of course, I mean, if we go into a real gold bull and they find another Barsele and proves up Barsele, I mean, 1-2 billion might be a bit on the low side, but still, you get my point. And the best part, the base case is that it's already a tier 2 mine. That's worth $1 billion. That's already there. So yes, I'm gambling on the blue sky, but just based on what's there, I think this is dirt cheap. Even if they drill dusters in every single other hole, there's still, in my opinion, a really good mine there. That's probably gonna at least be 3, 4, 5 million ounces. And those don't grow on trees, not with excellent infrastructure in a tier 1 jurisdiction. Plus you get the Finnish gold belt now, and 300,000 ounces there. That can get monetized one way or the other. So yeah, and so what was I gonna say? Well, there's also, some interesting stuff here. It's like, again, I'm biased. Okay, thoughts on market response to this news tomorrow? You know what I say all the time. I have absolutely no idea. To me, this is such a no-brainer. We should be 100% higher already. But hey, that's why I love this sector. I think this is probably the easiest sector in the world, because this is the dumbest sector I've ever seen. Well, I haven't seen that many sectors, but it's just absolutely outrageous. I have no idea how anybody could come up with a credible bear case for First Nordic from a risk-reward perspective. But my point is, I guess, that this does not matter at all to me, where we're going tomorrow. The market can be super dumb and go down. That's not impossible. I mean, why not? That's happened before. But it's just so obvious to me, at least, that this is so extremely undervalued. And what shows that more than the second largest gold miner in the world become the largest shareholder? So I mean, it's kind of by definition, if Agnico Eagle wants to take a share position in something, okay, they think it has potential, and in that case, because again, First Nordic could have simply dropped the Ojärvi project. If Agnico's like, hey, we don't really care about your Swedish assets or whatever, but First Nordic was like, we really care about our Swedish assets. We don't care that much about the Finnish assets, so we're actually going to drop that and just use our money to spend on Sweden. That would make sense. They didn't do that. And they didn't like the Finnish project enough. I'm talking from a First Nordic perspective. That's like, hey, Agnico, you're not getting any shares because we're going to pay full price for the Finnish project and we keep the 100% interest. That didn't happen either. So to me, it's pretty obvious that this was a compromise. Agnico Eagle wanted to get exposure. First Nordic did it by, okay, we'll take the project. I would bet they, are going to monetize that in some way or the other, because again, the gold line belt is the main focus. So it's like, okay, we get the project. We can do whatever we can. I mean, that's off your hands now, Agnico. You don't need to worry about that. We're going to take care of that. Okay, so you can walk away finally. And you get to become the largest shareholder. Yeah. And again, it's like, a lot of, speculation what's going to happen short term. In my opinion, that's totally missing the point. If I cared about, hey, where's the next 10-20% going to be, I would have sold here or something. No, I think that we're in the very, very early days. I think we're starting off. I think First Nordic right now is one of the cheapest gold juniors in the entire sector. With blue sky, that's more than most gold juniors in the sector. That is, in my opinion, how it comes to become such a unique risk reward. And to have the sire of gold majors to say, hey man, we think you have potential that would even interest us. And we need to see $2 billion in potential. That is just the icing on the cake. You're not going to be smarter than Agnico Eagle. I'm not smarter than Agnico Eagle. No one is. They are the best of the best. That's why they have a market cap of 51 billion and have basically outperformed, most other, and have traded a premium. They know good gold projects. Let's see. Okay, Fool's Gold, PP 29 cents, share price 39 cents. Not good news unless you spin it that way. I mean, this kinda makes me want to blow my brains out. First of all, when were we at 29? Well, actually 29. I mean, even I guess the warrant. So we've been like, what? This is a month, 32, 30, let's say 34 cents. Something like that. So yeah, let's say, like someone said, 20-25%, whatever. Let's look at it. Okay, 13.3%. And we take 25% dilution. Let's say add the dilution. That's a 3.3% difference. I mean, this is at face value or whatever. But you get the point. Who the fuck cares about 3.3% dilution? I mean this stock for them to go up 1,000%. Nothing is gonna rest on if they get in at 29 cents or 36 or 39 cents. Jesus. But again, hey, I'm trying not to get worked up, but it's like I see some stuff and I just, yeah, I think I'm gonna be able to beat this sector for the rest of my life. Unless I get whatever, some mental disorder or something, because it's like there's so much focus on the details. What's the stock gonna do tomorrow? Who the fuck cares? Oh, Agnico Eagle got in with a, let's say, 20% discount to the share price. Who the fuck cares? Do you think Agnico Eagle gives two shits about whatever the difference in price is? Maybe they said, hey dudes, we want whatever shareholding or share ownership, because let's say, I don't think they got warrants, but I'm not 100% sure. 3 divided by 2 plus 13.3, that's not almost 19.95. So that sounds more like they were goal seeking. We want this exposure, 13.3 or whatever, and and for whatever reason, right? I don't know if they got half a warrant or something, but it obviously sounds like gold seeking. So then it came down to, okay, how many shares, at what price do I have to sell the shares to you, Agnico Eagle, for you to get 13.3? Okay, 29 cents. Bam. Might as well be a reason like that, even though it doesn't freaking matter. Agnico Eagle does not give a shit if they save or pay up $1 million or whatever, or 2 million, whatever the case might be. That is nothing to them, the same as a $1 billion project is nothing to Agnico Eagle at this point. 2 billion and it starts to get interesting. That's what it's like. Again, I don't get it. Again, who cares where the market is going to open up? The market is the market going to find its whatever brain and all of a sudden have First Nordic shoot up to $1.5 or something more reasonable? Nope, I don't think so. Is this maybe going to wake people up? It's like, well, I don't know. It's been a boring project and blah blah. And it's like, oh, Agnico Eagle gets involved. Oh, the smartest gold major in the entire space, the second largest gold miner in the entire space. Yeah, but I digress. It doesn't really matter anyway, right? It doesn't really matter. We don't share our portfolio returns with anyone else anyway. Most people make mistakes every single day anyway, and we're just capitalizing on them. I thought First Nordic was goddamn cheap for the last 2-3 months. Did that revalue overnight? Nope. This is just with Agnico coming in like this, and again, to me it looks like this is I scratch you, you scratch my back kind of situation, perhaps. Where I think this is a signal that we like what you get going on around Barsele in Sweden, and yes, we actually agree that there's potential for this to turn into a gold camp, so we want to become the largest shareholder. And then you look at the market cap and you're like, whoa, if what Agnico thinks the potential is, if that turns out to be true, this market cap is not going to even be in the same universe. Fast forward the tape. We have money. Okay, they, let's say, drill 10,000 meters of Påbacken, starting to show that, whoa, this is a, whatever, 500,000 at least deposit, or has potential for that. It's like, again, how cheap the drilling costs are. We could drill a lot, and 4 or 5 kilometers away from Påbacken, there's a operating mill, which is looking for feed, which got fed by a 377,000 ounce gold deposit. Heck, that could be like the not the worst case, but like that's the threshold for success here. You have a mill next to Ida, 4 kilometers away. If you find 300,000 ounces, that is probably a mine. That could be worth a few hundred million. That alone could be worth more than the current market cap. Especially in a good, gold environment. So yeah. And I don't, yeah. So I don't know. Early retirement seems to be very focused on exactly knowing what Agnico wants to do or does not want to do. I just look at the fact that they became the largest shareholder. And again, go back to the fact that First Nordic could have dropped Ojärvi and gone at it alone in the goal line. They didn't. But it's obvious that Bars or the gold line is the flagship project. Why didn't they? Well, if they liked Ojärvi so much that we couldn't possibly part with it, why didn't we wait and raise the money to buy it outright? We didn't. So it's just game theory. The only thing to me that makes sense, again, is that this is a compromise. Agnico wants exposure to First Nordic's gold line belt. Agnico already has 55% of the largest gold deposit there. Or second largest, depending on how you look at Fäbodliden. But that's probably 3, 4, 5 million ounces. Still not big enough. With First Nordic's ground, we all of a sudden see district scale or region potential. Yeah, so a long rant, but it's like, again, it's like if the market opens down tomorrow, for example, in First Nordic, I don't need any more proof just how easy this sector is. To be able to, let's say, if you're in some way able to spin this like, oh, they're, they got in at 29 cents, like that. Means anything. Again, especially when you include the fact that, hello, this looks like a compromise, because it makes no sense that if we liked it so much, the Ojärvi project, that it's such a high priority, even with the gold line belt, we would buy them out, not take the dilution. On the other hand, if we didn't like it because we're focused on the gold line, then we would walk away. If that's not a compromise, if that doesn't suggest that, okay, Agnico, we're going to take this project off your hands. You don't need to do more about, we'll take care of this, we'll monetize, spin it out. Whatever we do with it, you're going to get exposure anyway, because you're going to become our largest shareholder, because that's what you wanted anyway, because then you get more exposure to Barsele and also to the actual district play with our many multi-kilometer drill targets, which some people seem to apparently forget about. So yeah, again, I love this sector, best sector there is. Nobody has a clue. I probably sound like an asshole, but it's like that's, I think, one of the tricks, let's say. Realizing, because I'm not a geologist, I'm not a mining engineer, what I think I'm pretty good at is risk reward and appreciating what is material for a long-term case and what is not. What is the let's say, take an extreme example. You have the fact that Agnico Eagle becomes the largest shareholder of a 75 million Canadian market cap company with a district scale land position next to Agnico's, that shares interest in Agnico's Barsele deposit, or rather they have an operatorship and majority stakeholders in what used to be the Barsele minerals, or the fact that Agnico got their shares at 29 cents, which appears to be, if you divide that by 2, say you had a half warrant or whatever, you get up to 19.9% shareholding, which is typically the cap. If you take this as a negative news release because the placement was at 29 cents with that context, that overrides the fact that a $51 billion company became the largest shareholder, I have no idea how you survive in this sector. That might sound harsh, but it's like some stuff I see, it just drives me absolutely crazy. And of course I care a lot because I have such a position. I love the fact that it's in Sweden. I think it's so cool. And I have huge respect for Agnico Eagle. So it's like, to me, for this to be a big position and see Agnico Eagle come in, that's like, wow. Now I know I'm not making a mistake, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's about it. I was going to talk about more stuff, but I might do another video, I guess. Again, I've said this before, This was a long rant. Consider me biased. This is not a buy recommendation or a sell recommendation. Don't invest money you cannot afford to lose. We don't share. I don't know exactly. Nobody knows what's going to happen with a stock. I'm biased because I think this is a steal still. I am very long because I think it is a steal still. My case is built around the fact that I think this should be much higher already just based on what it is. And I think this could prove to be a $1 billion to $2 billion gold camp in the future. That's my case. So I don't care about the short-term movements really. We don't need any dilution in the short term. We have the warrants and yada yada. You get it. So not investing advice and all that. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day. Bye.